Hello and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, and in this edition of the program we will review some reports from the African continent. Egypt hosted the 4th African Trade Ministers Retreat to accelerate the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. During the meetings, Cairo stressed full support for translating the agreement into a tangible reality that fosters sustainable development, boosts intra-African trade, deepens integration in line with Africa's Agenda 2063. More in the coming report.
The Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade Hassan Al-Khatib reaffirmed commitment to advancing Africa's economic integration. Egypt reaffirmed its commitment to advancing Africa's economic integration as it hosted the 4th Ministerial Retreat for the Council of Ministers of the African Continental Free Trade Area AFCFTA. Ahead of the high-level events, Hassan Al-Khatib, Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade, met with Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, in a closed session to review preparations and exchange views on priority areas for accelerating implementation. Al-Khatib stressed Egypt's full support for translating the AFCFTA into a tangible reality that fosters sustainable development, boosts intra-African trade, and deepens integration in line with Africa's Agenda 2063. The gatherings held in Cairo from 11th to 16th of September brought together ministers, senior officials, experts, and private sector representatives from across the continent. This served as a vital platform to strengthen public-private partnerships, encourage entrepreneurs and manufacturers, and expand trade opportunities that can open new horizons for growth and investment. In his opening address, Al-Khatib highlighted Africa's abundant resources, strategic location, and youthful population, combined with a strong political will for integration. He described the retreat as a strategic milestone to convert these assets into a unified economic reality that enhances the continent's global competitiveness. He outlined key priorities on the agenda, including addressing global geopolitical and economic shifts, accelerating completion of the African single market for goods and services, finalizing outstanding rules of origin, and advancing industrial integration and value chains. He further emphasized the importance of digital transformation and electronic payment systems as essential tools to facilitate intra-African trade and attract investment.
Now we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Ambassador Sou'ad.
Good afternoon.
How do you see the timing of holding the 4th African Trade Ministers Retreat to accelerate the implementation of the agreement in light of current challenges?
Well, it is, of course, very important that Egypt is hosting the 4th Ministerial Retreat for the Council of Ministers of the African countries, African Continental Free Trade Agreements, because it is follow-up to what has happened during the past meetings, and to accelerate the steps that are taken in order to reach the integration of the economy of African countries. And of course, it is a good opportunity for the trade ministers to see the development that has happened in Egypt in the past few years in the field of trade and in the field of investment opportunities in Egypt.
Ambassador Sou'ad, during the event, Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade Hassan Al-Khatib reaffirmed commitment to advancing Africa's economic integration. How do you see the pace by which Africa's integration is proceeding?
Yes, of course. The Minister Minister Al-Khatib has stressed in his speech about the resources of Africa. Of course, Africa is a young continent. It has a young population. It has strong political will for integration. It has abundant resources, and it has a strategic location among all the other continents. So he has stressed these resources, that the abundance of resources in Africa, and he has stressed that the unified economic reality is possible if we reach this African free trade, if we take all the steps that are needed in order to strengthen the trade between the countries in Africa, and also to encourage entrepreneurs and investors to expand their trade opportunities in Africa. Also, it is important in this meeting, he has said also that it is important to open new horizons to attract more investments to Africa.
And in your opinions, what obstacles hinder Africa's economic integration?
Of course, there are a lot of, there is a big market for goods, and there is a big opportunity for youth to work in the fields of trade. But the problem is that there has to be steps towards how to deal with the new global threats that are facing the global market, the African global market. There has to be practical steps. This retreat that is taking place in Cairo now with all the trade ministers of Africa are discussing the practical steps towards a fast track for the implementation and transforming Africa into an influential global economic power. Also, it is looking to building a unified Africa. How can we reach this? Of course, there are lots of steps that has to be taken in order to reach this. Of course, there has to be a stress for the global technological the industrial integration and the deepening of the value chains in Africa, and also the technological boost in economy. There has to be steps taken in order to reach the same digital transformation that is happening in the whole world. So this technological steps that has to be taken, whether it is electronic payment systems or essential tools to facilitate the intra-trade African goods. It is very important to have the rules of origin, the advanced industrial integration, to have the value chain and the digital transformation. This is in order to reach the global market of goods and services in Africa.
And what priority areas are needed to accelerate the implementation of the African agreement?
Of course, the local industries and it is important to find markets for the local industries. And of course, it is important to create centers for trade. And of course, it is important also to find the means and ways, like for instance, marine or air transport for goods, whether the road transport or the marine or air transport for the goods. So there has to be logistics to trade between these countries, and Egypt has decided on the sidelines of this retreat to create 6 logistical centers for Egyptian products in a number of African countries. And this will make it easy for Egyptian products to have a strong presence in the African market. And the same will happen with other African countries like Morocco, Nigeria, and Kenya and other countries, in order to achieve trade balance and create more job opportunities and protect the local industry. So there has to be a joint effort of all these ministers in this retreat in order to take these steps towards developing the logistical system between Egypt and Africa and between themselves, you know, all the countries of Africa and with each other.
So, Ambassador Sou'ad, the retreat serves as a vital platform to strengthen public-private partnerships. So how important is it to strengthen such a partnership?
Yes, of course, this is one of the most important and fundamental strategic decision that it has to be taken, that they have to, the ministers, they have to decide on strengthening public-private partnerships, and this has to be covered or has to be encouraged and guaranteed by the financial institutions that are found in Africa, like yes. the African trade, the African banks and the African insurance companies, who have to guarantee this private-public partnerships and boost it and encourage it, encourage the local entrepreneurs and of course encourage also foreign investors, FDIs, to come to Africa.
So how can Africa's abundant resources, strategic location and youthful population aid in making success with regards to the implementation of the goals of the agreement?
This can happen if there are new horizons, new trade opportunities, if there yes. are more job opportunities. And as I said, there has to be more ports and more airports that are available in order to ship the goods from one country to another. Because, as you know, the roads are not yet ready for transporting the goods. So it is important that we use the abundant resources that are available, but at the same time we have to open the roads and the marines and the ports, the airports and also the marine ports for goods to be transported from one country to another.
And what role does digital transformation play in economic development?
Excuse me, can you say it again?
Yes, I'm talking about the role of digital transformation in economic development.
Yeah, of course, we cannot reach the integration, and we cannot without using the young population. The young population are all using the digital transformation, and accelerating the digital transformation will accelerate the completion of the African single market of goods and services, because this will advance the industrial integration. The digital transformation is including the electronic payment systems, the essential tools to facilitate the trade between the countries. Now it is something very essential in order to reach the ultimate goal of the Agenda 2063, which we are all looking up to, in order to reach the unified market to global, and the global market is has a lot of challenges, and in order to have a unified African market, we have to use digital. We have to use the digital transformation and to have everything possible to include the youth and use all the resources that are in Africa, whether they are natural or human resources.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Ambassador Sou'ad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you, Ambassador Sou'ad, for being with us. And back to our reports from the African continent, and deadly floods have displaced over 100,000 in South Sudan. The UNHCR provided the numbers, warning that if the flooding continues, up to 400,000 people are likely to be displaced by the end of the year, exceeding flood displacement levels seen in 2024. Details in the coming report.
Over 100,000 people in South Sudan have been displaced by what the UN Refugee Agency UNHCR has called new deadly floods. In recent weeks, widespread flooding has engulfed large parts of Jonglei, Upper Nile and Unity states in the north of the country. The agency's representative in South Sudan, Marie-Helene Verney, said that if the flooding continues, up to 400,000 people are likely to be displaced by the end of the year, exceeding flood displacement levels seen in 2024. The situation is expected to be at its worst between September and October and threatens to cut off entire communities, exacerbate hunger and heighten protection risks, particularly for women and girls, as she said. For several years, South Sudan has faced an ongoing humanitarian crisis due to underdevelopment, disasters and conflict that have displaced many communities. Recurrent floods have exacerbated this displacement, destroyed homes and threatened livelihoods across the nation. Stagnant water combined with limited access to safe drinking water is raising the threat of further disease outbreaks on top of the ongoing cholera crisis. The crisis had already affected over 12,000 internally displaced persons, IDPs, and 3,100 refugees by the end of August.
And in general, elections kick-started in Malawi on Tuesday with two presidents contesting for leading the country. The election is also for seats in parliament and local wards. More in the following report.
Malawi voted in general elections on Tuesday, with the incumbent president and his predecessor vying for a second chance to govern the largely poor southern African nation, battered by soaring costs and fuel shortages. Thousands of people waited under trees or outside schools at outdoor polling stations across the mostly rural country for a vote focused on the faltering economy of one of the poorest countries in the world. 17 candidates are running for president, but observers say the race is between outgoing Lazarus Chakwera and Peter Mutharika, who also dueled in the 2019 vote that was nullified over tampering and followed by a rerun. Chakwera, a 70-year-old pastor, and law professor Mutharika, 85, have campaigned on improving the agriculture-dependent country. The economy is battered by drought in 2024 and a 2023 cyclone. In urban centers, many young people who make up around 60% of the 7.2 million registered voters expressed a desire for change. Inflation is running at above 27%, while the cost of living surged 75% in 12 months, according to reports citing the Center for Social Concern, a non-governmental organization. Around 70% of the majority young population of 21 million people live in poverty. This is according to the World Bank.
And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. Thank you for watching.